สวัสดีค่ะองค์การบริหารการบินและอวกาศแห่งชาติหรือ NASA ของสหรัฐอเมริกาขอใช้พื้นที่สนามบินอุตภาวเพื่อเป็นฐานปฏิบัติการเกี่ยวกับการตรวจสอบสภาพอากาศในขณะที่กระทรวงกลาโหมของสหรัฐก็ขอใช้พื้นที่สนามบินอุตภาวเช่นเดียวกันเพื่อที่จะตั้งเป็นศูนย์บรรเทาสาธารณภัยและช่วยเหลือด้านมนุษยธรรมเมื่อสหรัฐอเมริกามีความเคลื่อนไหวแบบนี้และขอความช่วยเหลือไม่เฉพาะจากไทยเท่านั้นแต่ว่าประเทศเพื่อนบ้านของเราด้วยจึงมีการตั้งข้อสังเกตกันนะคะว่าเพื่อที่จะสกัดกั้นการเติบโตและการมีอิทธิพลทางการทหารของจีนหรือเปล่าเพราะว่าทุกวันนี้จีนเองก็มีการลงทุนด้านการทหารเพิ่มมากยิ่งขึ้นเรื่อยๆสหรัฐประกาศชัดเจนเลยนะคะว่าภายในปีคศ 2020 จะมีการยกย้ายกองกำลังของทหารเรือให้เข้ามาอยู่ในภูมิภาคเอเชียแปซิฟิกมากถึง 60% ชัดเจนค่ะว่าสหรัฐมาถึงวันนี้ให้ความสำคัญกับเอเชียแปซิฟิกมากยิ่งขึ้นคุณสุทธิชัยหยุ่นถามพลเอกมาร์ตินเดมซี่ผู้บัญชาการทหารสูงสุดของสหรัฐว่าสหรัฐมาเอเชียครั้งนี้ต้องการอะไรกันแน่ค่ะ
General Dempsey, you have announced the plan to reposition your naval fleet to Asia and Pacific. By 2020, you have 60% of your warships in this area.
Yeah.
Are you that afraid of China, really?
No, in fact, and by the way, when you said reposition, let me put
what is the naval word for it?
Sure, yeah. Now let me put a little different edge on the word. It's really we're rebalancing, and in that sense, I'd offer we're doing three things.
Yes.
We are paying more attention to the Asia Pacific, because after 10 years of conflict in Iraq and Afghanistan, our attention has been focused almost exclusively, not exclusively, but very nearly. So we're going to pay more attention to our long-standing interest in as a Pacific power in the Asia Pacific, to our allies, and as you know, Thailand is our longest-standing ally in this region at about 179 years. So more interest, more engagement,
yes.
which means fundamentally it means building relationships, human capital, the human dimension, and then more quality. Yes. So the best of our equipment, the best of our ballistic missile defense, the best of our aviation, the best of what we've got will be in the Pacific.
Why so?
Well, because if as a student of history and a student of economics, I would suggest to you that the world's economic power, the world's military power, most of its demographic issues are migrating to the Asia Pacific or are already here. And I think we intend to make sure that we are where we need to be positioned where we need to be to address the challenges of the future, not just continue to pay attention to the challenges of today.
Well, China will certainly feel that you are encircling them.
I've heard that. And in fact, I've had conversations with Chinese counterparts, with Chinese academics, with everyone in the region.
Yes.
That question is very frequently asked. My answer is very clear that our rebalancing to the Pacific is not intended to in any way contain China. In fact, I would actually suggest to you that were we not to rebalance and to pay more attention, that would create the conditions for miscalculation and misperception more than our presence will. Because by our presence, and I'll give you an example of my visit here in Thailand. You know, my counterpart and the Army chiefs and the other service chiefs that I met with, they all have a relationship with China.
Yes.
That's different than our relationship with China would be because we're operating from a distance. They're in the neighborhood.
Sure.
I encourage that. And I encourage us to work both bilaterally and multilaterally to gain a better understanding of our we have so many common interests. Humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, counter-terror, counter-piracy. I mean, there are far more issues about which to collaborate than there are that could cause potential friction among them.
Your presence here, or your increased presence here, could deter China from taking certain actions that you may not want to see. Is that a consideration?
Well, you've used the right words. Again, words matter. You said that our presence here could deter China. I would suggest to you that's not our purpose in being here.
Yes.
If how they perceive our
what if it's
presence.
a side effect? What if it's it contributes to peace, or the fact that China would not take any action differently if you are here and if you're not here?
Well, if you're suggesting would it be a good positive outcome if our presence here would create a condition for peace, I'll sign up for that.
Okay. Yeah. Whether you intend it that way or not.
Yeah, I mean, what we intend to do is, as I described it, is to renew our current alliances. And as you note, we have alliances with Philippines and Thailand, notably in Southeast Asia. Build new ones, and that's why the SecDef my Secretary of Defense is traveling to Vietnam and to India, because we want to understand what relationship our partners want to have with us now that we have the time and the capacity to reinvest in the Pacific.
And the political atmosphere.
And the political atmosphere. We'll have to determine if the atmosphere exists on our side. I think we have to determine if it exists among our partners.
Are you or not concerned about China's rise and the recent obvious signs of military expansion?
I am not concerned about China's rise in general terms, because I think it's somewhat inevitable. I mean, they have economic power, they have huge human capital that they are trying to do the best they can internally. They have domestic issues, as we all do. If you're asking me, do I consider it inevitable that it has to lead to military confrontation? Absolutely not. It does not. And in fact, our reinvestment into the Pacific is intended particularly to avoid that kind of military confrontation.
You're not concerned about China's increasing its military budget?
Well, again, as a student of history, I think that the sum of national power is always the aggregate of diplomatic power, economic power, and military power. I mean, throughout history, nations rise and invest in all three of those. And it's not surprising to me that China is investing in its military power. And at this point, I don't consider it to be intended to deter us any more than our investments are intended to deter them. Our rebalancing to the Pacific is not a containment strategy toward China.
China just launched its first aircraft carrier. How significant is that in Navy terms?
Well, I think that the aircraft carrier is certainly a symbol of national power. Again, this goes back to what nations do when they have the resources to do it. It'll give them the ability to project power at certain distances. It's kind of a nascent capability for them. You know, it's taken us, the United States, 50 years or so to figure out how to use our carriers, how to rotate them, how to conduct all the operations that you can from an aircraft carrier. And by the way, an aircraft carrier is not simply a tool of war. I mean, when we've had the opportunity to help Japan during its tsunami, when we've had opportunities in Haiti, typically we'll send an aircraft carrier because it has the ability to generate such power and provide such resources and a platform for humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. So, you know, China's investment in aircraft carrier technology is probably, certainly we should acknowledge it to be dual use or multi-role, and we'll see how they use it. But it's a tool that can be used in many ways.
So you're saying that increased naval presence from the United States in Asia Pacific will reduce tension rather than increase tension?
I do.
Is that convincing enough, you think, for other countries in the region?
Well, that's why I'm here. I mean, I'm here to...
You're here to explain that you're not creating tension.
Right. I mean, that's why we went to this. You know, both the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States of America were at the Shangri-La Dialogue, having frequent conversations, and the first question is always that question: why are you rebalancing?
Yeah.
And it was an opportunity for us to explain that.
Is it because also that the wars in the Middle East, Afghanistan, Iraq have sort of, been winding down and that you have now enough capacity to shift to Asia Pacific?
Precisely. That's what I mentioned earlier. We're going to pay more attention, more engagement, more quality now that we have the capacity to do so.